Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Dolls with Karen. I've laid out a few kits. We're going to talk about something that we don't usually talk about, and that's changing limbs. That's something you might want to do sometimes, is change limbs on your dolls. And there's several reasons that people want to change limbs. Sometimes it's because a doll has 3/4 limbs and they want it to have full limbs. Another reason is because a doll maybe like Tessa or Dominic here, have the same exact limbs as their awake and asleep versions, have the exact same limbs, and they want to make twins out of them. But who wants them to have the exact same limbs? Two babies, even if they are twins, aren't going to really have the exact same limbs. So sometimes you're going to want to switch the limbs. And what you want to do, there are some things you want to look at when you're going to switch limbs. One is the size of the baby's head. These two babies have drastically different sizes of heads. So which that should mean that, well, she should take bigger limbs, I think. And she's not going to sit up either. She doesn't want to. And this one should take smaller limbs. But that's not always true, because the second thing you should look at is what size doll is it supposed to be when it's finished. And both of these are an 18.5-inch doll. I mean 19.5 inch. And then you want to compare the limbs. Like, this is the left limb and the left limb of Dominic and Tessa. But see how much fatter Tessa's leg is? It's because she's a bigger, fatter baby than Dominic. So naturally, she's going to have bigger, fatter limbs. I'm not saying that you couldn't put these limbs on Tessa, because you could. But the problem is, it's going to make her look different. She's not. These are Dominic's limbs here. And look how chubby her arms are. They're big and chubby and fat. And his are just skinny and little. And so, babies don't just come in sizes according to length. They're fatter or skinnier. She's just a fatter baby, and she needs fat limbs. So if you want to change Dominic's limbs, you don't want to change with Tessa. You'd want to change with another doll who had similar limb build as he does, and also a similar head size. And even though they're supposed to be a certain length, they don't have their head stuff. That's why they look like they're collapsing. Even though they're supposed to be a certain length, there are some exceptions that make them be very skinny, like they're a longish preemie. And I'm going to bring out two other dolls right quick. I'm going to lay I ought to put these back in their bags. I always take them out of those bags that Bountiful Baby has them in, because they're so tightly in there. And I put them in these great big bags that I buy myself. And those bags that Bountiful Baby has just split and break, and these don't. These are hefty bags. Well, these are great value, but I have some hefty bags too. I'm going to bring out two other kits here in just a minute. Oh, Dominic, you need to go in there with your limbs. And show you the example of what I mean. Two dolls that represent little small babies. And there's not a lot of difference in them, but there is some difference in them. Now, where did I put that other bag? There it is. Let me put Tessa up real quick. I was going to let one of these dolls be my next doll, because these were pre-varnished, but I can see there's some, just looking at them under the light, I can see there's some problems with their varnish. They're going to have to be re-varnished. I always varnish first because it helps the paint to hold on better. I always tell people who are listening to my videos, think of varnish as another coat of paint. Okay, here's two preemie babies. We've got Aspen and we've got Bean. One of them is a real born, so I'm assuming that is approximately the size she was. But this little doll is a sculpt. She's just was sculpted by somebody. These are her limbs. She has tiny little limbs. Look how little they are. She makes a little short doll. She's just little, like 15 inches or something. And her little hands and feet are just so little. And then there's this one. This is Aspen. She is the twin to leaf. And even though her head is virtually the same size, I want you to see the difference in the limbs. Look at that leg compared to this leg. You could change them. Their heads are the same size. She could be the long baby, and she could be the short baby. But these belong to her because she is a 17-inch doll, I believe. 17 inches. But she's very, very skinny because I think she's supposed to be a preemie. And, I mean, super, super skinny. And, yes, these limbs could go to her, and these limbs could go to her. Now, you're making a much smaller doll out of Aspen if you gave her these limbs. But these are cute limbs. They look as good as real-born limbs to me. And they would make a fine doll if you wanted to change the limbs around. But one thing you don't want to do is take a little bitty doll like her and give her Dominic's limbs, let's say. Her head's just too small. So when you want to switch your limbs, look for a doll with a similar head size and hopefully a similar build. Like Tessa was fat, Dominic was skinny. These two are both skinny, but one is long and one is short. It's feasible that she could become the short doll and she could become the long doll. But that's up to you if you want to change limbs. What you don't want to do is give a tiny doll big limbs or a big doll tiny limbs. Did I say that backwards? Anyway, sometimes the limbs are 3/4. That means they're going to have a 3/4 body. I sometimes change limbs because they're 3/4 because I do not like 3/4. And customers who are going to buy your doll don't usually like 3/4. Some people are sticklers for the exact same limbs that they came with, but most people are not. They don't care. As long as their doll looks good and everything, they're happy. But when you're changing 3/4 limbs, same thing. You're going to want a 3/4 limb is like cut off right here and it's flat. It doesn't have this shoulder part up here. But you're going to want to make sure this part matches with this part on the other, they're about the same size still. Because that's the only way you're going to get the right kind of limbs on your doll. It's not super hard to change limbs. It's just you have to be a little careful. So that's my story about changing limbs. You can also change bodies. For example, Aspen takes, I think, the 19-inch body, which makes her a very long baby. But you can also put her on that 15 to 17-inch body, which is what I usually do. It makes her look more like a preemie. And they'll be a little shorter. There's not much difference in the bodies. If you look them up, like let's say a 19-inch body and a 20-inch body. And this is just an example. I don't really know what the measurements are without looking them up. I'm just making these numbers up. But let's say the 19-inch body was from neck to crotch was 8 3/4 inches. The 20-inch body might be only 9 1/4. That's a half an inch. 1/2 inch. That's why I tell people, you know what? You don't have to have the exact body that your doll goes on. It's a half inch. You can't even tell the difference. If 19-inch bodies are on sale and your doll calls for a 20-inch body, I always get the 19-inch body if it's on sale, or vice versa. Just to save money. I try to save money every way I can because making dolls is very expensive, and people want to talk you down to almost nothing as it is. So you have to kind of watch your money and cut corners where it doesn't matter. And half an inch does not matter. You can make a doll from a 19-inch kit with a 20-inch body just fine. And now I wouldn't go all the way up to a 21-inch body. That you would be able to tell the difference on that. But anyway, I didn't mean this video to be very long. I just wanted to go over some information that you might need if you ever want to switch bodies, or if you ever want to switch limbs, or whatever. Sometimes people switch the arms, but they don't switch the legs. It's any way you want to do it. And some people do what they call a hybrid doll. It might have one arm from one doll and one arm from another doll, and the same thing on the legs. They're just mixed limbs. I personally have a bucket, which when I say a bucket, I can't pick up this bucket because it's full of doll parts, but it's too heavy. It's like the bucket your glass comes in when you buy the glass. It's just a little small bucket, and then I cover it with cloth, completely with cloth, and I'll put my doll parts in it. I currently have a bucket like that that only has arms and legs in it. So when I need an arm or a leg or something, like sometimes when I strip a kit, I won't strip the arms and legs. I'll just throw them away, and I'll strip the head and give them new limbs. Because, who wants to strip that much? I don't even want to strip at all. But sometimes you have to. But anyway, that's pretty much all I had to go over with y'all was that. And I promise when I come back, I'm going to have a clean table. It's my New Year's resolution, and I'm failing. Oh, I just can't. I just keep working, and I just don't even care. But anyway, please like, subscribe, and share. And happy reborning.